You're listening to the Full-Time Function Musician Podcast, episode 10.
You're listening to the Full-Time Function Musician Podcast, the number one resource for growing your function musician business. If you're a solo wedding singer, part of a 12-piece luxury show band, or anything in between, and want to learn from other successful musicians, you're in the right place.
You're listening to the Full-Time Function Musician Podcast. I am your host, Jack Twiner. If this is your first time listening, then hey, welcome. If you're a regular listener, then welcome back. This podcast is for function musicians who are looking to grow their business, hear some inspiring stories, maybe get a few more gigs, a bit more money, and generally just learn from others who have been doing it successfully for years. So, episode 10. Can you believe it? Most people probably wouldn't celebrate a 10 episode benchmark, but I'm gonna, because it's not easy doing a podcast. It's not just turning up and chatting for a bit. It's all the organizing and planning and research and editing as well. But I am really enjoying getting to talk to loads of interesting people. So I just wanted to say thank you for all the lovely messages and comments I've had so far. I do really appreciate it, but I'm definitely lacking in reviews. So if you are enjoying this podcast, I would hugely appreciate it if you could go and give it a quick review. It's going to help me approach bigger, more high-profile guests and just keep growing this thing. I also wanted to let you know about something that I'm doing that I think will appeal to a few of you. On the 30th of May, I'm going to be running a summer wedding promo package day. Catchy name, I know. But what that is I booked a beautiful outdoor wedding venue, and we're going to film you a show reel and do a photo shoot. This is perfect for wedding singers, instrumentalists, duos, small bands, anyone who performs at weddings, basically. So as I said, we'll be shooting a show reel. That's up to 6 songs in the show reel, and we'll do a photo shoot and you'll receive 10 photos at the end. There are only 5 slots available, and they are £350 each or £400 for the golden hour slot. The venue is in Wokingham near Reading, and the date again is the 30th of May. Just give me an email if you'd like any more info on that. My email address is contact@infocusrecordingcompany.co.uk, or you can give me a message on Instagram, which is @infocusrecordingco. Anyway, if you haven't already turned off because you're sick of listening to me, here is my conversation with Miss Belle. You're listening to the Full-Time Function Musician Podcast, and on today's episode, I'm super excited to be chatting with Miss Belle, a vintage singer and performer based in the Midlands with a repertoire spanning the 1920s through to the 1960s and beyond. Beth is also 1/3 of vintage vocal harmony trio, the Bluebird Bells, who perform nationwide, performing Andrew's Sisters style entertainment at different types of events all over the country. Trained in musical theatre and a licentiate of the London College of Music, Beth is a performer in every sense, and was recently fortunate enough to perform at the London Palladium as part of the 16-strong West End ensemble for the BBC's musicals The Greatest Show. Beth, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
So we've been following each other for a little while now, and we've chatted a little bit online, but you were one of the first people that I sort of had in mind to ask to be on this podcast for a couple of reasons. Firstly, you're obviously great at what you do, and I'm really looking forward to learning a bit more about your career, and I'm sure you're going to have loads of knowledge and experience to share, but also you're absolutely killing it on social media and have a huge following. So I'd love to dive in and figure out a little bit about basically how you've managed to do that. But we'll get into that a little bit later. Firstly, let's start off with learning a bit more about you and where you got started and the journey that led you to where you are today.
So from a very early age, I loved singing. There's lots of videos of me singing with my family. And then throughout school, I was always in the plays and the musicals. But I never really thought I want to be a singer. I didn't really think, I didn't know what I wanted to be. Then in sixth form, I studied music technology, potentially considered going down that route. But then I ended up applying for drama schools, and I wanted to do straight acting, and music sort of took a back seat. But you have to audition for drama schools, obviously, and I found that I didn't put anywhere near enough time into the prep for those auditions. And I think that sort of said to me, you don't want to do this. So I ended up just having a little bit of time with a part-time job, sort of considering my options. And I was doing a little bit of Amdram, just to keep singing. And then I was singing with a guitarist as well at one point, just at the odd gig here and there. But I was actually approached, this was back in 2013, by a couple of girls who had got a vintage trio, and one of their singers had just left, and they said, would you like to be a part of this trio? They'd actually heard me singing karaoke in the pub where I was working part-time. So it was sort of fate, really. And we were together in that group for about 2 years. But to be honest, there was a clash of personalities. We were very, very different people, and it wasn't going well. So we all just said, no, we need to move on from this. So I actually started my own trio, and I was really interested in the 40s. And I wanted to make it very authentically 40s with the Andrews sisters, the tight harmonies and the RAF uniforms. So I started the Bluebird Bells back in 2015. And to be honest, I kind of didn't imagine that it would still be as popular as it is today. We're still, booked up. There's still people inquiring. There's people inquiring about years from now as well. It's such a popular thing with people, which is wonderful. I never considered that this would ever be a full-time job, and it just is. And each year is better than the previous year. So yeah, that's a little bit of the story in a nutshell.
So it all started with the trio then.
Yeah, so it all started with a trio. I loved vocal harmony. I was always very interested in harmony. In fact, a little bit of a nerdy, sad fact, but I used to sit at home with a dictaphone, and I would record myself playing the recorder, and then I would play it back and harmonise with myself.
Nice.
On top. But I think obviously doing it from such a young age, you learn how harmonies fit together.
Yeah.
And I'd probably say, there's many things I'm not good at, but I feel I'm good at harmonies. I've got a natural flair for it.
I mean, that's one of the most important parts of creating music, I think, is harmonies, and something so overlooked by so many people. That's a really interesting way of learning how to do it as well.
A solo voice can obviously be beautiful, but harmonies make you feel something. Yeah. And it can be so magical.
Yeah. All my favorite music, have insane harmonies on. All stemming from the Beach Boys and stuff like that, I think.
Oh yeah.
But so the vintage side of things, did that kind of come about by accident then? So were you not doing any vintage stuff before the trio, or was kind of where it was born?
So I remember being about 7 or 8 years old and taking a CD on holiday that I'd found in the cupboard at home, and it was called 1940s Nostalgia. And so for 2 weeks, I sat by the pool listening to this one CD that was all 1940s music. And so I learned it word for word, of course. And then I think when I was at school, we had a project of writing a play version of Lord of the Flies. And there's a bit where they're all sort of leaving their parents. And I said, could we put We'll Meet Again in there? And the teacher was like, how do you know We'll Meet Again? And I was like, I I love that song. But then I guess it just sort of, I didn't really listen to vintage music from that point on. But when these girls asked me to join the vintage trio back in 2013, I thought, I know all of these songs.
Yeah.
Vera Lynn and the Andrews sisters. And they're so beautiful and hopeful and positive. So it's gorgeous music. And I think as well, my voice style fits that type of music, that sort of light and airy kind of songbird vibe. I'm not really a belter. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think picking a niche is super important when it comes to being successful. It's not the only way of doing things, but I think it is a really easy way to market yourself. And basically, because you can say this is what I do it all the time and I'm really good at it. And when someone comes along who's looking for that kind of thing, they're going to pick you because you're the best at it, rather than picking someone who does it a bit here and a bit there. So obviously, you've got a really defined niche. There are variations in that, obviously, but you can clearly see you're a vintage singer. So my question is, I'll get there eventually, did you sort of I guess, did you pick that niche because you thought it was going to be successful? And did you pick the niche for a reason, or did it just kind of find you? Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And I think that it found me. I think the fact that I was so lost for a time, thinking, what on earth am I going to do with my life? And all these little things happened just by chance that I didn't go looking for. Yeah. I would say, yes, it did find me. And I just met the right people who guided me as well and sort of unlocked this within me.
Yeah. Is there quite a big like vintage scene around the Midlands? I know that because there's that place near Birmingham, isn't there? Like the sort of like 19
the Black Country Museum.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah. It is. I mean, it's big all over the UK, really. There's 1940s reenactment weekends going on. Every weekend. Lots of different venues, lots of steam railways because the setting really lends itself to the 40s. So we don't tend to get booked up at too many of those these days. I'd say maybe the popularity has sort of waned a little bit, but I think that's sort of to be expected because the veterans and the people who remember that time are sadly passing away. But yes, it is very, very popular still. Lots of people who do it as a full-time hobby, and people who've spent hundreds of thousands of pounds on Jeeps and uniforms. I mean, I haven't spent tens of thousands on mine, but
it looks like you've got a lot of stuff though, and it must cost a fortune. It must cost a fortune.
I think I was really lucky with mine, but we'll get into that.
So do you think, having this niche has really helped, it made it easier for you to grow your business and your band or group or whatever you want to call it?
I think so. Having a bit of a brand and it being so specific. So obviously we've got the Bluebird Bells, and then my solo name is Miss Beth Belle.
All very on brand, yeah. Yeah,
exactly. And the BBs as well. Yeah, I think it definitely helps because, as you say, people will look then and see that it's not like a wishy-washy kind of thing. It's all very much, this is vintage and this is what we do and this is how we look.
Exactly. You come across as you're the experts at it. I don't know if there's anyone doing it better than you, but I haven't come across them.
There are quite a few trios and vintage groups about, but I think our particular USP is that we really strive for the authenticity, especially with the military uniforms, because nobody else has got that right.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much clients really are. Some do say, we can really see you've put the effort in, but others, they might just go, well, they've got a uniform on, so we don't know the difference. But for me, it's good knowing that if I'm singing 1940s music, I'm wearing an accurate 1940s uniform. That's important.
Yeah, I guess it's all part of with your musical theatre background as well, being in that costume and being that role, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's respectful as well to the people who lived in that time and everything they went through.
So the early days of the Bluebird Bells then, when you were kind of first starting out, what were you doing to market yourself and how were you getting those first kind of gigs?
That's a good question, actually. So go back in time. I think that the first thing was to create social media profiles, obviously. Facebook was more popular than Instagram at that time because Instagram was very much just pictures, not really captions. There was no stories, no reels, of course.
And this was 2015, you said, yeah?
Yeah. So the first thing was Facebook. Get as many pictures and videos and recordings on there as possible instantly, get the logo up and make sure people know who we are. Because I think for me, when people start a Facebook page and they're still not sure, they haven't got any pictures or anything, they just have the icon with one letter and then they invite you to like the page. I'm like, I'm not going to like that because I don't know who you are and what you're doing.
Yeah.
You want it all to be set up completely before you start showing the world what you've got to offer.
On that note, did you go in with quite a defined brand already? Was it quite similar to what it is now from the start, or did it grow into what it is now?
Yeah, it has grown. I feel like it's got better and better. But I had, because I'd been in that previous trio, I did have more of an idea of what I wanted and also what I didn't want.
Yeah.
So the first thing for me was get a picture up of us in our uniforms, looking smart. That's what I want people to think of when they hear the name Bluebird Bells. Yeah. So I look back and I think, maybe could have done that a little bit better. But, when you're starting out, you're just playing around with things. And I designed the logo myself thinking that I would get that sort of done properly at some point. And I still haven't. But I think the thing is, it is kind of, people associate it with us now. And I wouldn't want to deviate too much from it anyway.
Yeah.
But I think definitely just have an idea of what you want, what you want it to look like, how you want to appear.
Yeah.
Before you decide to put it out there.
Yeah, I think it is definitely good to have an idea of what you want to do and have like a strong brand in mind. But sometimes people can get a bit crippled with everything having to be perfect before you can release something. And I'm definitely a victim of that sometimes as well. So I think sometimes enough is better than never releasing it. You know what I mean?
That's true. And I have to say I'm guilty of that as well. I'm a massive perfectionist. And sometimes the other girls in my group have to go, Beth, that might not be 100%. It might be 99%, but it's still going to be better than we put it out than it never be shown. But I've always been that way, sadly.
Yeah. I mean, you can tell like you're a bit of a perfectionist because everything like everything on your social media is like super high quality. All the videos, all the pictures, everything just looks great. And you can tell that's someone with an eye for detail.
Yeah, that's it. And I think I'll probably knock myself by saying that I'm a perfectionist and it's a bad thing. Whereas actually what you've just said, an eye for detail, that's probably the best way to phrase it. For me, I would rather it take, 8 hours to film something and 16 hours to edit it, and it looked great and me be perfectly happy with it, than just sort of throwing it together.
So how long after the Bluebird Bells were going did you sort of start your solo stuff as well?
It was actually around the same time.
Okay.
I just thought, well, why not? I think I'd built up the confidence at that point to be able to do it. And a few people had said to me when I was with the other group, have you ever considered going solo? And I think, to be honest, some of them could see that there was that clash of personalities maybe, and they thought I'd probably be better off. So it was around the same time. But for me personally, I like my solo stuff because obviously you can try new things without too much rehearsal, because obviously in a harmony trio you've got to have everything perfect. You can't go, we'll just wing it. You have to have good harmonies, otherwise that could be potentially awful. So I do love the solo stuff, but obviously it's when you've got company, when you've got two other people who you're sharing the experience with, I prefer that, to be honest.
Yeah. So how much, what kind of split is it at the minute? Are you like 50-50 with group and solo, or a bit more group? Or
I would say it is 50-50 actually. Yeah.
So let's move on to your social media a little bit then. And this is it's a big question, but I don't really know where else to start. But I guess, how did you start growing that social media? So just for people listening, you've got like over 30,000 Instagram followers and over 30,000 TikTok followers as well, which is, that's huge in my eyes. Where did you start with that, I guess?
I honestly feel like I have been very, very lucky, because I don't do anything that people say you're supposed to do in terms of the social media thing, like commenting on everyone else's videos and engaging with people. Like I do if I really like something, I will comment. It's very rare that I will, though, to be honest. So we'll go back to 2020 when TikTok was just becoming popular. I followed a guy called Gary V. Have you ever heard of him? Yeah, so I followed him, and he was very much, you've got to be on TikTok. So March 2020, or it might have been February 2020, just before COVID, I got my TikTok account, and I'd put like the odd video. I was doing all the trends, the silly things at the start. And then I was obviously really bored when we went into lockdown, thinking, you know, what on earth can I do? I've got no work. And so I was like, right, what have I got here at home that I could use to make some videos? I thought, well, I've got a load of 1940s uniforms that I've collected. I wonder if people might be interested in seeing those. So I thought, well, I'll put a little video together of me quick changing in and out of them, because the quick change thing was very popular. Lots of people were doing that. And so I thought, well, this is something completely different. And I think it took a long time to film, just getting the uniforms on and off. The room was a total mess. But yeah, so when I put it up, it got about 3 views. I remember taking the dog for a walk and I came back and it got 3 views, and I went, well, that was a waste of time. And then I woke up the following morning and it got 30,000 views.
Oh.
And then it went up and up and up and up. And to be honest, I don't know what it's on now, but it was hundreds of thousands of views, and my followers just went up and up. So then I thought, well, people are obviously very interested in the uniforms. Let's put up some more about those. And then I did some sort of little singing videos. And I think the thing is with TikTok, it's easy to feel disheartened when you have a really good video and then the next one you put up it doesn't do so well. You just have to try and be consistent with it and think, well, it's okay, because even if it's only got a few hundred views, it's still up there. You could still do well at some point. So with TikTok, I did what I fancied doing through lockdown, and that's where the followers came from. With the Bluebird Bells, we did a cover of that Wellerman song that was really popular for a time. Do you remember it?
Yeah.
Just did a cover of that, and that's when it was that video that got our followers up on TikTok. And then with my Instagram account, I've had that for, I don't know, 10 years or something. And it was just sort of ticking along, and I had about 2,000 followers. And then in July last year, I thought, I'm just going to film a little video while I'm at that gig. And I almost didn't film it. I forgot to film the second part of it. So thank God I did, because I put it up. Again, didn't do too well. And then sort of within a couple of days, I just saw the views going up and up and up. And then the followers were going up. And I thought, oh my gosh, what's happening? And people were commenting on it, and they were arguing between themselves over what the uniform was. And that video has now got 1 million views. So, well, I say now, it had 1 million views within about a month. But I remember when I got 10K, because that's when it changes from like all of the numbers, 9,999 to just 10K. And I was like, oh, wow, that's amazing. And then I put up the same TikTok video, actually, the quick change in and out. I put that up on Instagram. That's got 1 million views. So, I mean, I can't, there's no sort of magic formula. All I would say is just...
No, I think it kind of all comes back to this niche. Like, you've got a really strong defined niche again. And obviously there is a big following for that kind of stuff. And there was obviously no one else filling the gap before that people wanted to see. And so it's not like a purposeful thing that you managed to do, but as I said, you just filled that niche. But again, one of the things that I think has also really helped is the high quality of your content. And everything, there's no phone videos from the back of the room at a gig or anything like that. Everything is high quality. Everything looks great. So question one is that's obviously a purposeful thing. You want to keep everything like that. And number two, do you do a lot of that yourself, I think, right?
Yeah, all of it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. So did you learn to do that so that you could keep it consistent, or did you already kind of have those skills? Like you used to do a bit of photography in your spare time or something like that?
No. So I bought a vlogging camera, and I thought about potentially starting a YouTube channel and doing a bit of non-vintagey kind of vlogging. And that was also during lockdown. And then I filmed a little video on that, and I thought, this is better than my phone. But then I wanted the next level. So I got that, and then I went, oh no, but it's still not the quality that I want. So I learned to I got my current camera, Canon camera, and I learned to film. There's a lot that you can learn on YouTube, lighting setups, and I'd got my music technology. I can't think of a better word, but expertise. I learned that at school, so I just sort of combined all of those elements to do what I do.
So do you do the photography and the videography as well? Because they're quite two different skills. And are you actively still like learning to get better at all these things, or are you kind of just like you've hit a point where like, yeah, this is where I'm happy with this stuff now?
Always learning. Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, I mean, you take me as that kind of person that would say that. Yeah.
I came to you at one point, didn't I, when I was filming a video because I wasn't happy with my footage when I got home. Obviously, I knew that I couldn't go back and refilm that. It wasn't possible with schedules and things. So I was like, what can I do? Is there anything I can do to make this footage better? That was frustrating for a perfectionist. But yeah, no, I'm always interested in learning how to better my skills, because I would say I know the basics. Yeah. But
I feel you probably know a lot more than the basics.
Yeah. I feel like I learned the basics, and I suppose you have to just combine that with, like you said earlier, the eye for detail. Because it's all well and good having a great set of tools.
I think a little bit of natural talent as well. You should give yourself some credit there, because your videos are really good. Like, honestly.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I guess I've just watched a lot as well over the years, and I suppose you absorb all of that and learn what looks good, and it's just trial and error as well. Like I said, I would rather spend hours doing something. And I have spent hours filming something before at home and then watched the footage and gone, no, we're doing that all again tomorrow. Yeah. Because I just wouldn't have been happy putting it out.
Yeah. So having this big social media following, does that actually bring in work? Do you get, I imagine these days, most of your stuff comes through word of mouth and repeat clients and things like that. But does the social media following actually help bring in clients and get
so
people in touch?
So in all honesty, the following, my followers are based all over the world. There's a lot in America, don't get me wrong, it'd be great to do a US tour. But in terms of work in this country, I don't know. I think the only way it would bring in work is that people will look at the profile and go, oh, she's got a lot of followers, she must be good. Because some people do, they take that more seriously than perhaps they should. But I think it probably just pushes me to keep going with it, having that amount of followers. But the other thing is that, again, you can't get disheartened when people unfollow you, because I can't post every single day because I'm not a full-time content creator. So I get that people might go, oh, she's not posted for a while, unfollow.
I mean, I'm still at the level where I can see exactly how many people I've got. So, someone's unfollowed me. I've only got this amount now.
Yeah. But, don't get me wrong. It's a little stab in the heart when it happens, but you have to just go, okay, it's fine.
So if you're not getting a huge amount of people getting in touch to get gigs and stuff, where is that most of it coming from? Was it, as I said, just through word of mouth?
I think it is, yeah. I think definitely with the group, we're very well established on the scene. Definitely word of mouth. People will see us at the big public events, they'll take a flyer and then they'll pass that on to their friends. Or it is a lot of recommendations, but it's just keeping yourself out there, isn't it? Making sure you're seen, posting regularly.
Yeah, I mean, as I've said this a few times on here now, that social media mainly is for staying top of mind and reminding people that you're there. Yeah. When they're, I'm having an event that you might be perfect for, and then you pop up, and then they're like, oh yeah, cool, I'm going to get in touch. So back to the social media stuff a little bit. Do you have any sort of plan or schedule for either TikTok or Instagram?
Honest answer is no. I wish that I did, though, because I feel like I'd feel more settled if that was the case. Yeah. I've got a list of ideas on the go. Yeah. And what I would like to do quite soon is actually just put up a a story in a question box and ask people what they might like to see. Because I think that's really interesting, actually, to just engage with the audience. So yeah, if I could post a video, every couple of days, that would be great. But I think I would run out of ideas, actually. With the Bluebird Bells, I post twice a week. Try and post twice a week, sometimes 3 times if there's a lot going on. It's just about having a good variety as well, because people don't just want to see you at the gig that you've done that week. They want to see other things, singing videos, and we put a lot of silly stuff up as well so that people can see that we are human.
Yeah, a little bit of personality in there.
Facade. Yeah.
I've always thought that you weren't supposed to use like the same content for TikTok and Instagram, but it seems like I actually assumed that your Instagram came first and TikTok came second. But so do you do stuff for? That's pretty much because I just don't use TikTok.
Yeah.
But yeah, so do you just use the same content for both?
Yes, though I think that there's some videos that I won't post on TikTok. Don't think there's anything I've posted on TikTok that I've not posted on Instagram, but I think you have to be careful with certain platforms. So more so, there are things that I would post on Instagram and TikTok that I wouldn't post to Facebook, because I think Facebook is slightly more serious. There's older people on there, and I think they're generally the kind of people that would be booking me and the group. So I tend to keep it a little bit more not serious, but not putting the really silly stuff up, like the trend stuff. I would keep that to TikTok and Insta. Yeah.
Do you still use Facebook a fair bit then?
Yeah, I do. I would say actually.
Do you find you get more inquiries through there than Instagram and TikTok?
Yes, definitely.
For work, yeah.
Definitely. Because I think that is the people that are booking us are the older people, considering the type of music we sing.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I think just to sum that up a little bit, I think the success that you've had really comes down to the solid brand that you've built, and it really makes it easier to market yourself if you have that defined niche. But let's move on a bit now to the section of the show, which is your best gig, your worst gig. This part is basically just a time to share any cool stories or just to brag a little bit about some of the awesome things you've done. So are there any cool stories you want to share with us?
Cool stories. I can tell you about a really good gig. So it's actually a bit of it's sort of spanned the entirety of the 10 years that I've been doing the vintage singing. So years and years ago, I had an inquiry to go and perform with the group at a big liberation event in Guernsey. And I'd heard about this gig because it's been going for quite a long time, and we couldn't do the dates. And I was really, really devastated. But I said, get in touch next year. Anyway, because they needed a group for that year, they ended up booking that same group for years and years. Because that's the sad thing, isn't it? When you can't do something one year, you've probably lost that for many years to come. So anyway, they did get in touch again, and they wanted to book us for the 2020 event. Obviously, that couldn't go ahead. They postponed it to 2021. We eventually got there in 2022, and it was 100% worth the wait. Have you ever been to Guernsey? Honestly, the people are the friendliest, some of the friendliest you will ever meet. They embraced us like a family. It was so lovely. And so the time we were supposed to do it in 2020, William and Kate were supposed to be there. It was that kind of big event. We didn't find that out till after it was cancelled. But they'd got Prince Edward and Sophie at the 2022 one. They danced along to our set. They made a point of coming and having a chat with us. We had a lovely, lovely conversation with them. And I think we were only there for sort of 3 or 4 days, but we left the island just feeling so elated, and probably doesn't sound as amazing as it actually was.
No, it does.
It was just so special. I think we were just buzzing, really, really buzzing. And we were talking about it for probably a year afterwards, telling everyone what a great gig we'd had. And then we did it again last year, and then we're doing it again this year as well. So it's just nice that, after the disappointment of not getting it that first time, that we eventually got there, and now I feel like it's ours as well, which is great. So we have so many amazing gigs, though, to be honest. even just, you know, the little local ones. I think because what we do is so different, and we don't just, I'm not saying that all singers do this, but it's not your typical set list. You know, in sort of when you go out and you hear a party band and you kind of hear the same songs that we do different sort of stuff, and we'll do those postmodern jukebox style songs. So, you know, we do a great version of I Want to Dance with Somebody, but in a 1940s swing style. And it's those kind of songs where people will go, oh, what's that? I know this song. What is it? Oh, wow, that's amazing. So that, you know, bad gigs are very, very few and far between. It's only, it's amazing. Yeah. It's only that sometimes perhaps the person who's booked us for their party or whatever, it's very much their thing and not so much everybody else's. And, you know, we've had a few gigs where people just sort of sit and stare and they don't clap, which I find unbelievably rude. If I'm out somewhere eating dinner and there's a singer on or a musician, I make a point of like putting down my knife and fork and clapping, because I just think that person is working so hard and they're like bearing their soul for everyone to see. And then I just think you just should show appreciation, but some people don't. I just find it so odd. We've only had that, you know, a couple of times. But the best bit is when you're singing with two other people, you can just laugh together about it. It's harder when you're on your own, but you develop a thick skin over the years.
Sure.
And you just sort of think, well, this is my job. I get to just be here and sing music that I love for a living. And how incredible is that? Yeah,
awesome. Yeah. So have you guys, or you personally, got anything cool coming up this year that you're excited about?
Have we got anything cool? We've got a theatre show coming up, which is brilliant. So we thought we'd delve into that kind of world, experiment a bit. So we debuted it last year, and we've got another opportunity to perform that We'll Meet Again show. So it starts at the outbreak of World War II, and then it goes through right up into VE Day with a big finale and celebration. So yeah, we've worked hard on that, and I'm looking forward to performing that. That is in Bilston. I'm not sure you know where that is.
I personally don't.
There's a great jazz club in Bilston, very famous, called the Robin. Is it called the Robin? No, it's not. It's not called the Robin. It's called the Trumpet.
Nice.
Yeah, the Robins are like a rock venue also in Bilston. And then lots and lots of gigs. So if anyone does want to come and see us, we are kind of all over the place this year. And then I will be posting our public gig list very soon on all of the social media channels.
Awesome. So that stage show, is that completely put together by you guys, or is that in collaboration with someone else?
Together by ourselves. I think it probably still needs like a little bit of tweaking, but we've enjoyed doing it. It's something different for us.
Mm-hmm. Has it taken a while to put together?
Yeah, it's been in the making a couple of years, but we're really, really hoping that we could tour with it. But we just sort of we're going in very, very much baby steps rather than sort of putting everything into it and potentially losing a lot of money. So it's obviously a lot of money to go on tour with a show. So we're just we're being very cautious with it, and just
wonderful.
Yeah, it's a bit of an experiment.
Awesome. So yeah, unless there's anything else you'd like to talk about, I think that brings us to an end. So if people wanted to connect with you or learn more about you, where would you send them?
Yeah, so everything is Miss Beth Belle. I'm on Instagram, TikTok and Facebook and YouTube. And then the Bluebird Bells, same again, just all the Bluebird Bells, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube.
Awesome. It's been amazing chatting to you. I think I've definitely learned a lot about social media, actually. So yeah, thanks again for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
So there we go. I really hope you enjoyed our conversation. I just want to say thanks to Beth again for coming on. I think the real takeaway from this episode, for me anyways, is how important branding is and how it's so much easier to market yourself if you've really got a defined niche. I think it would be great to have a marketing and branding expert on in the future. So if that's you, please get in touch. Anyway, that's episode 10 in the bag. Take it easy, and I'll catch you next week for episode 11.